Get ready for the ultimate dose of inspiration and knowledge with the Give Me 5 podcast. Host Chris Gilmour shares actionable tips on a different topic each episode. Tune in now and elevate your life with Chris Gilmour.
Welcome to another episode of the Give Me 5 podcast. I'm your host, Chris Gilmour, and today I have special guest, Mr. Real Estate Agent himself, Josh Smith. Welcome to the podcast, Josh.
Hey, thanks for having me along.
No worries, man. We're just going to shoot the shit here, aren't we?
That is the plan.
As long as we can talk. So,
yeah.
All right, so, mate, I've got you on the podcast because we've got to talk about the big issues here.
Yep.
Right? We've got to talk, like, our listeners, they want answers to all of these really big questions.
And we've
right?
got the answers.
We've definitely got, well, I'm searching for the answers, right? So, tell me, right? So, the number one thing, like the hottest topic that is going on right now, I need the answer.
Hit me with it.
All right. Is Hailey Bieber and Justin Bieber splitting up? So you thought it was going to be a real estate question then, didn't you?
Yep, you've caught me. Yeah, you've caught me on that one. Look,
Mate, there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk that Selena might be coming back into this.
I'm not a believer myself, you know, so I don't...
Look, if anyone was all over it, I thought you would have been the man that would be all over
not at
this.
all. Not at all. No. Like as far as my young male pop stars, I like them old school, a bit more Timberlake sort of thing, you know, back in the day.
Okay.
But,
well, Backstreet Boys, they're in concert at the moment.
They are back.
Everyone's back. So, all right. So you can't answer me. Well,
I've got nothing for you on that one. Okay.
I reckon they have.
Okay.
But I could be completely wrong.
Yeah.
So I was right about the Kardashians.
Keep watching.
Am I going to be right about Hailey Bieber and Justin Bieber?
So what are you actually calling? It's done?
Mate, I reckon there's something going on. Something fishy going on.
All right.
So
stay tuned.
yeah, man. It's like I've got nothing else better in my life to do than worry about the Beavers if they're splitting up or not.
That's what we do at open homes.
Absolutely.
Is just check what's going on that on the phone.
As you do. So how boring were open homes until Facebook come out for real estate agents.
Well, I remember.
Mate,
I remember when.
Yeah, well, you were back in the Ice Age, so you would have remembered.
Yeah. For sure.
All right. Anyway, let's talk, before we get into the big questions, let's talk about Fernando Alonso, Formula One season. It is back on. We're both motor racers. I've got no doubt.
How good to see him back on the podium.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Fernando fan.
Really?
No, I always just thought he jumped around too much and he was never loyal. And
I like the way that there on the telecast on the weekend that he's fully taken on the I'm the villain role. Yeah. And saying stuff like someone's got to be the bad guy. It's me.
Yeah.
He's grown into that. So.
Yeah, so look, it's but for the sport, I think it was fantastic. I think it was really good to see Fernando. I watched the replay last night. I didn't stay up until 1 o'clock. I watched qualifying, everything like that. I think Ferrari started off disappointing again.
Yep.
You know, with reliability. Mercedes, I think, are going to be about halfway through the season. I'm tipping that they'll probably be back at the front of the grid again. Red Bulls are looking strong, but whatever Red Bull and Aston Martin have done a deal together, those Astons are just
it's
absolutely
more than
fast.
anything. It's good to see that, like with Aston, that this is the cost cap now coming into play.
Yep.
All of a sudden, it's not about money anymore. They've all got the same amount of money to spend.
I'm pretty sure Lance Stroll, old man Stroll's got
he's just
more
building
money.
a factory and stuff instead. I can't spend it on the racing. I'm just going to build this ridiculous factory instead.
It's a billionaire that owns Aston Martin race teams.
As you would.
Look, I'm super stoked. Basketball season's finished. Formula One season has started. So I think every episode of this, we've just got to talk Formula One first.
Update.
And then we'll get into some real estate.
Yep.
What do you
Sounds
reckon?
good to me. Sounds good to me.
All right, so let's put it on the record at the start of the season. Who is going to win the World Championship this year?
I think Verstappen will make it a 3.
Max.
I think he will, for sure. I think it's just they've got too much momentum. I reckon that's the way it ends up.
And you reckon Checo's just going to play second fiddle?
I think they'll find a reason to sack him later on this year. My Mexican. You know, so I have a little bit of history.
You've got a relationship with Sergio.
A bit of history for sure.
Absolutely, you do.
But I reckon...
I've got my little Sergio Formula One signed car in there from Perez, so I don't have any Max stuff.
I think they get rid of him and
Denny walks in. All right, so let's talk about Danny Ricciardo because he copped a lot of flack. You know, it's come out in season 5, Drive to Survive, when Gunther was trying to get him back in Haas or whatever, and he's like, you know, fuck this. It was he wants $10 million or whatever he was saying, right? So obviously he was chasing around $10 million for the season to drive. Didn't get that, didn't get picked up, washed up, finished, done, gets paid out of McLaren's contract also got paid out with Renault's.
That's the thing. Surely the McLaren deal would have been, we're going to give you this money, but if you then go and get
a full-time drive,
a seat, it's going to be that money minus what you get from someone else.
Yeah.
So is Dan just going, well, I'll go take a reserve role for this year.
Absolutely.
I'll get the full amount of money.
Takes his 18 million.
For not actually racing.
Yeah.
It's good.
Absolutely.
I'll slide my way back in with Red Bull and wait for them to go third year round, Checo. Yeah, no, we need more, Dan. And it's done.
And here he is watching the race. And Oscar's back in the pits.
Yep.
And I think McLaren are going to be probably bottom 2 cars out of this year.
Yep.
So I think he's completely dodged a bullet there.
Yep.
So anyway, that's enough Formula 1 talk.
Absolutely.
Let's talk real estate.
Let's talk real estate.
Real estate. All right. So we've had our big meeting this morning.
Yep.
So that's sort of going to be the topic around today.
Yep.
But yes, Bieber is hot at the moment, on the lips of everyone. But I think in real estate terms, let's talk real estate. What do you reckon is the number one topic everyone is talking about right now in real estate?
It's all about interest rates.
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
about interest rates and what's going to happen and how much effect it's having. And
so, what's your take? Where do you see rates going? You've been in this game long enough.
Well,
Where do you see it?
It certainly looks at this stage like we're going to get, and all the predictions are another couple of increases, and then it's going to potentially have the impact that they're looking for, where it slows inflation down enough, and then
isn't it today? Don't they?
This afternoon.
Can we get that actually hooked up?
I was looking online there before, and there was someone is calling for the powers to be to say, like, come on guys, this is
I've been
enough.
following Mark Burris. So Yellow Brick Road, everyone would know probably Mark Burris.
Yep.
Very clever man in the finance game as well too, with loans and stuff, and he's begging them.
Yeah.
He's begging, there's enough herd out there now. We're just not seeing that flow on. And, we'll talk about that because that's a lot of questions I'm getting from a lot of our sellers, buyers, and just general public asking, where do you see rates? I still think we're going to cop another one today. I think it's going to be a 0.25%. Two of the big banks last week already put their fixed rates for new customers up 0.1% already before even this move. So they're already moving on their rates.
Yeah.
And I think that will bring it to around the 3.6% or something like that. So I think it's all relative, right? We're really just coming back to what it was before.
It's
pre-COVID.
I think,
and we forget that so quickly.
That seems to be the big thing out there, isn't it? That it's interesting how quickly people's the level that is normal readjusts, and after the governments worldwide said, hey, great idea, free money.
Yeah.
And what people's expectation was that was the
that's the new norm.
It was never going to be the normal, was it? It was an emergency economic
situation.
heart starter worldwide, and it was always going to come back, and we'd had drops, but well before that anyway. So realistically, it's only just coming back to normal rates. I mean, still in the big scheme of things. I remember when when my first mortgage, I think, was in the 8.5, 9 sort of range, and that was normal. No, it wasn't the 17s and 18s and 19s that our parents talk about, but 8 to 9 was normal.
I get that too, and a lot of people go, back in my day, and I'm like, but you were earning $80 a week too.
Yeah.
And it cost when I was my first job in a service station, we were selling fuel at 24 cents a litre. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think it is all relative, but we spoke about that this morning in our team meeting. Yeah. And it was actually a bit of a light bulb moment, and hence why our topic is today around interest rates. And we'll talk about the one fundamental, half of our group didn't even know what a mortgage stood for. Yep. In Latin terms, which I know what it stands for. Why a mortgage actually exists, right? So, people just it's really a big game, really. It's just how the banks make their money. They had to, for the banks to make their money, they had to have a product that they could sell the dream of. And
the mortgage is the product. That's the thing, isn't it? That's why a lot of people don't realise that the mortgage is actually the product that the bank sells.
Yep, that's it. And basically, it's the great Australian dream, the great American dream is own a home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the banks have cottoned on to that, sold that, just like the most important meal of the day is breakfast. Yeah,
if you're selling breakfast cereal, it is.
Oh, mate, that started Kellogg's. Like, of course, it's the most. I skip breakfast. I don't eat breakfast.
Yeah,
like,
a diamond ring is what is absolutely required when you propose to a woman.
Says the jeweler.
Absolutely.
So I think it is all sort of really relative, but it was a bit of a light bulb moment for me. Like, we went around the group this morning and we spoke about what is a mortgage, how does the bank make their money, but how can we actually pay off a home quicker? Because it's up on the board there. There's 3 million principal place of residences with an average mortgage of $600,000.
Yep.
There's, what's the number? 800,000 are coming off that this month on the 17th of March.
That's the fixed rates.
The fixed rate of 1.9%. Yeah. And they're going to be jumping straight to 5.3.
Yeah, which just so for our listeners and viewers, that's where we're talking about the idea that basically 2 years ago now, at the beginning of when the COVID. Government when the rates went to basically nothing, that either new mortgages or existing mortgages Australia-wide were fixed into those super low rates. And now we're coming up to that 2 year period where like so many people that fixed for a 2 year period and then now about to come out. And so that's one of the things I guess that we're seeing talked about within the industry and certainly in our office is what's the impact going to be when those come out. And obviously we look at that from what's to the consumer actual payment impact that has, and then from our perspective, how's that going to play out into potentially an increase in number of properties coming to market at the back end of this year.
And that's a big topic in our office here is, when's it going to happen? When are we predicting it to happen? I have my predictions and we'll talk about that, but like we got 800,000 of these loans coming off this honeymoon period. And the number there, so $300 a week it was, on top of what they're already paying.
That's what they were saying, the difference between what they were locked in at, what they are now.
$600,000 mortgage, and that's the average.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we know what we're selling. Most of the homes we're selling are $1 million plus.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people now will have some negative equity. Like they've borrowed more than what the homes actually were.
Certainly, there's going to be some of them out there. So there's also going to be the people that with the growth that we obviously saw through the COVID period that have got plenty of equity in their home. So and that's actually something that's that we've seen from some of the agents that we're connected to in the US. We're talking about are we going to see another version of the the 08 crash and the idea that no, we're not, because the level of equity that the average person's got in their home now compared to then. And there's a lot more equity now. So even people that are in a position that they maybe aren't going to be able to afford the payment side of things, they're not necessarily in trouble as far as being able to then make the decision to sell the home. It's not going to be hey, the bank's just going to walk in and take it because they're upside down on that loan, and at least they've got some equity in there, so that's a benefit.
Yeah, look, it's going to play out the way it's going to play out. So I'm predicting we're not going to see her, because everyone's like, oh, how's the market, Chris? How's the market? When's it going to bottom out and it's going to crash? And we're like, well, hang on a minute. Real estate probably won't crash. And I always explain, I said, who's going to be affected the most? It's not going to be us, right? Or real estate agents and selling properties and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be the small businesses, right? So it's your coffee shop.
The $6 coffees.
Right? So your $7 grandes or Zarafas or whatever that I buy every morning for my wife, people, when they're hurting, they're gonna they're gonna be putting that money into the home because they're always gonna want shelter.
People will make a choice between Netflix and Stan. Just have one.
Yep. Or our family tradition is we'd always go to this restaurant once a week. Well, now we've got to claw that back. It's gonna be all of those industries first, right? We're not gonna see any turn in the real estate pricing just yet. For months.
Yes.
For months, right? So I still think now is the best time to be selling a home if they were thinking of selling. I think we're going to be September, October is when I personally feel, hence, these guys wouldn't know, but I'm selling one of my investment homes right now.
Yep.
Why? Because I want to see an opportunity. I see an opportunity. I'm in the game. Been doing it a long time, like yourself. I've got a property there, got amazing equity in, or profit in. I want to pull that money out, sit it, park it,
put it aside and wait,
and then just wait for another opportunity. And yes, some people might think that's a bit rude or whatever, but that's business. That's just the way the game's played.
Well, that's what investment properties are about, aren't they? It's you've invested the money
for a reason
to make some money. So.
Absolutely. So I'm selling one of my own homes right now. You yourself have got 2 properties on the market yourself right now. You know what I mean?
Same thing.
Our sales manager has his investment property on the market right now. So all of us that are in the game, we're all selling now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Waiting for that opportunity. If that opportunity comes up. Now, we could get to September, October, and it all just falls to shit. Just like these experts said, property prices were going to go down 20% during COVID, and it went up 32%. How wrong were they?
But at least it's an investment property and not our principal residence.
Correct.
So it does make a difference.
Absolutely.
In that regard.
But, all I'm doing is just going to be moving my money from this property and putting it into this property, you know, hoping for a gain later on down in the track. So it was interesting, though, this morning when we were talking about mortgages. We went around the room, to some context for our listeners, we went around the room and said, who has a mortgage? How much you're sort of paying if they wanted to, give us that info, and they were, some people are private, and that's fine. But then we went around and said, how do you pay yours? Monthly, fortnightly? I think 2 of the
weekly.
group, you said weekly, and I think you were one of the 2 that said weekly. And I looked to the entire group and I said, do you guys want to know how you can pay your home off in 8 years? And everyone's like, huh? What do you mean? And I said, I've done it. It's you've got a budget, right? And it depends on what your home's worth, whatever. You can pay off a $300,000 home, you can pay off $1 million home. It doesn't really matter. The concept is exactly the same. But it just astounded me that our own guys who are in real estate, are in this game, didn't actually understand how a mortgage works. And when I said to them, do you know you can actually save 8 years instantly without actually paying any more money?
It was a bit mind-blowing, wasn't it?
And they looked at, and to me, I love this game around money. I've always been fascinated with money, even at a young age. So I'm always like, how can I have my money make money, right? Because that's how money is made.
Yep.
Right. And I think it would have been 90% of them in the room that said they pay monthly.
For sure.
Now the bank puts you on monthly because they make the most amount of money out of you. You pay more interest if you're paying $1,000 a month. Mortgage repayments, 700 of that a month is in interest.
Yeah.
300 is coming off the principal.
Yep.
And that's going to take you 30 years.
Yep.
Hence why they're 30-year loans.
And that's why they always want, at every opportunity, let's talk about refinance. Go back to square one and start again.
Do you think refinance is the biggest joke that the banks talk about?
Absolutely, because for them it just takes everyone back to a new start all over again
and go again. Oh, we'll give you some cash back. We'll put you on a new rate.
Yep.
Nope, we're just starting to
refinance your house and buy a car instead of getting a car loan.
It's their business, and we all jump up and down saying, oh, they're making record profit, billions of dollars profit. Yeah, because we're the idiots.
Yeah, of course they are.
We're the idiots. But to put some context around it, let's just say you have a mortgage on a 30-year loan, right? And you switch your mortgage from paying monthly to weekly.
Yes.
You instantly save 8 years.
Yep.
Instantly.
That's what all the models say. If you just take the monthly amount and divide it by
4.3.
Yep. No, if you divide it by 4 and pay that amount per week, because you pick up the extra 0.3. Yeah.
Right, that's right. And by the end of the year, you've paid like a whole month more than what you would have.
Plus, you've paid the principal down faster on each incremental thing. So the daily interest is calculated on a lower amount.
No one knew that either.
Yep.
And that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
That your home loan is accrued daily.
Yeah.
Interest is charged daily.
Yeah.
So even if you can put money every day against your home loan, you're going to save years and years and years off your mortgage.
Yep.
But like that was, it just blows my mind, the amount of people that are paying monthly on, right?
Yep.
It is, we can't pay it weekly. Well, yes, you can. Budget.
Yeah.
What if you were renting? You've got to pay rent every week.
Well, I think even that's the easiest part of the whole thing is the concept of, if your pay hits the bank on Thursday, just schedule your mortgage payment that it comes out on Friday.
Yep.
Get that done. Get that out. You know, you've got the advantage, obviously, of it being paid faster and quicker, and it's gone. It's the first thing that gets taken care of. You know, then you can't go and blow that money on Zaraffa's coffees. Yeah. Shout out to Zaraffa's.
Yeah. Sponsor the program.
It's good coffee.
We're like their number 2 customer in Cornubia. Trust me. So we got a little star next to our name because we spend $24 a day there.
Yeah.
But like, I'll talk personally from experience how we did it.
Yep.
Right. So how we set our budget up, and my wife's really good at budgeting. Right. I would have been one of these dudes at 23 and driving a Ferrari and had nothing else against me, my name, right? So she was always the budgeter.
Saved you from yourself.
Absolutely. I buy nice cars now. It's okay. But we had a goal. We know what we wanted to do. And we set ours up really simple. And I don't talk about it because I'm like, this is so simple. Everyone should be doing this. And I just thought everyone would do this. But we had an offset account.
Yep.
Okay, so let's just say, hypothetical, $500,000 mortgage. You have a redraw facility. So every single cent that we made would go in against the loan, right?
Yep.
So you're paying your loan down quicker.
Yep.
You're paying less interest. But if an emergency came up, or you wanted to splurge and you wanted that holiday or whatever, you know, something came up and you needed money, you've got money in there that you can pull back out. Right, and it doesn't really change too much, but and
you've got the same benefit of as if you'd paid that off the mortgage anyway.
That's right,
because it reduces the effective principal. Yep, you know, the interest is calculated.
And what we did is we just got a credit card, so we got a $20,000 credit card limit. Right, so we knew how much we could spend a month or whatever it was, whatever our expenses were.
Yep.
Everything gets put on the credit card. 2 reasons. 1, it's quick, it's easy, it's not cash.
Yep.
I collect points, so we can go to Fiji every 2 years with everything that we use on our credit card for free. Right, so we use that, but we also know, and it's all in one statement.
Yep.
But all of our pay, all of our money and our earnings were always offsetted against the mortgage.
Yep.
We paid our mortgage off in 8 years.
Yeah, right.
Done.
Yeah. We've basically done the same thing. Other than I must admit, I don't use the credit card. Like when I was younger, I went down that rabbit hole.
It would probably be dangerous, having a credit card.
But I went down that rabbit hole and got myself into some trouble and just spent, a bunch of time having to just pay endless interest and stuff.
The interest rate's what?
So 24.8 or something like that.
It's like crazy high.
So once I got rid of that, I did away with it, and so I just never went back to it. These days, certainly, with some much better habits and whatnot, I could go back to it easy, but I guess, just sort of in the rhythm of the way that I do things. But yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of different things that I guess that people
We should say though, disclaimer, this is not financial advice.
Yes, not financial advice. Neither of us are financial advisors.
This is just personal experience, just chatting. You look into your own loan and your own, obviously, your own circumstances, of course. But that's how we
And
did
we
it.
always recommend, if you get advice from someone like ourselves, great, take it on board, but go and speak to a professional, speak to a financial advisor, and get the right advice for your circumstances.
Big disclaimer. We'll put that on the screen somewhere too. Disclaimer. We're real estate agents. We don't know what we're talking about with finance. But it was, we know more than probably the average person. You know what I mean? And that's what we I ascertained this morning, that like these guys have all got mortgages. Like we literally just saved 8 years off everyone in that room this morning, instantly, like that.
I mean, a lot of people just don't have any idea of what's possible. I mean, when I bought our current home, so when I bought that, we'd actually had the mortgage on our previous home, but at the point from where we'd bought it, rates had gone down, and I'd actually I'm just trying to remember which way around it was, but I'd fixed for 5 years at that stage. But then we decided to upgrade the house and went and did that. And it was going to cost me a chunk of money to break that mortgage. So all that I ended up doing at that stage is work that we found the home that we bought and did the contract on that, and then I went and sold. That's when I was at one of the other brands. Went and sold the existing property that we had, but just then went in and actually went and sat with my bank manager at the time and said, "Here's what I want to do." And we did like the simultaneous settlement and did exchange of securities, where they went, "We'll take that house away from that mortgage and put the new one against it," and then just got a second mortgage for the difference in value between the two houses. And even at that, so like it was quite funny. The bank manager looked at me and went, "You want to do what?" And he didn't even he'd never even heard of that. And I went, "I want to do this, this, and this." And
that's the bank manager.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, I mean, there's lots of things that you can do, but I guess you've got to know about it.
Yeah, well, it's just research, and then it's just, educating yourself. You know, I've always tried to educate myself as much as, like, how can I get in front really quickly? You know, like, we're selling homes of 60, 70-year-olds that still have mortgages. You know what I mean? I can literally say, like, before I was 40, I didn't have a mortgage. Like, and that just sets up, your entire life. But it was a lot of sacrifices too. Like, we were working 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. Like, you know, there's a whole other stuff in the background. But we were never partying. We were never buying expensive stuff. We had cheap furniture. Like, we were never living this extravagant lifestyle. It was just put it against the home, and
But that's why you're at the point where you can do that stuff now, because you
got to sacrifice something. You know what I mean? It's like anything in sport, business, health, whatever it is. But like, let's talk about like another topic that I hate personally is real estate's just too expensive. It's too hard to buy a home. It's just it's unaffordable.
Yeah, but what are you trying to buy?
That's my question.
I mean, that's like, one of the properties that I'm selling right now, as you know, is one of my townhouses that we bought 20 years ago this year. 20 years ago this year. 20 years ago,
wow.
And, because...
So it's gone up a little bit in value.
Yeah, it has. Well, I bought it like right as it was right on that 2003, where it was going crazy anyway. But we bought that because it was affordable. And, so, 2 years later, we were able to buy a second home and keep it because we didn't walk in going... I need a brand new big and I don't know, sometimes certainly with some of the
Instagram doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. The whole thing of, like that you're meant to have this bling lifestyle and all the rest of it. But I'll tell you what, along the way, even through COVID, like when, there was uncertainty and all the rest of it, to not be on that knife's edge of, like, the pressure that so many people must have been under when people started losing jobs and all of that, and you'd like to think that one of the things that would have come out of COVID is people maybe having a bit of a reassessment of, hey, do I need that bigger house? Do I need to be that fancy, or, get back to being a bit more within our means?
What would you just say to someone that said real estate's too expensive? I can't buy into the market.
Well, there's probably depends on where they're at in life. I mean,
a normal first home buyer.
First home buyer,
right? Because all the what do you call them? What generation are they? Not Gen X.
The millennials,
baby boomers.
Yeah, Gen X's or
the older people,
the old ones. Yeah, the boomers.
What do we call them?
The boomers.
the boomers. I don't want to offend anyone. Right? I'm a Gen X.
Yep.
Right? That's all I know.
Yep.
And there's Gen Y.
Yep.
Isn't there?
I think I'm Gen X as well, technically.
No, you can't. You're not born in 80.
No, well, that's
you're much older than me.
No,
I got more grey hair, but I know you're older than me because when I was 10, you were, I don't know, you were looking after me when I was 10.
Yep,
and you were older than you were younger than looking after an older kid. So that's
another story for another day.
We'll talk about that one. But I hate it when I hear all the time. It's just unaffordable, especially from the parents. It's too hard for the kids nowadays. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute. What are they trying to buy? And where are they trying to buy? Like, like your turn. I don't even know what what are we selling the townhouse for? Is it in the threes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
Well, that's where it'll probably end up.
Yeah. Okay. So, like that's now that's affordable.
Yeah.
3 years ago everything was in the 3s, 4s. Especially around Logan here.
Yep.
Right. Now it's like minimum 6.
Yep.
You want something really nice? It's 9 million now. Like we just had that really big catch up that we needed to have.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that's just the way it is.
Yep.
But these people that keep coming and saying, it's just too expensive, they're never going to buy a home. Well, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Do you know there actually are other ways?
Yeah.
Keep renting where you are. You want to live in Paddington, New Farm. You want to live close to the river and the city and have that lifestyle.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping you buying an investment property
Absolutely.
for $400,000 in Bow
Desert.
And you don't have to live in it.
Yep.
Just rent it out.
You can probably go and buy townhouses in Woodridge and them be, cash flow positive.
it's a really high chance of that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, like, that's just some advice. If you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, it's just, you know,
get started.
Like, just get in the game.
Get started.
You know what I mean? Like, you while you're on the sideline, you're always going to be on the sideline as a spectator.
Yep.
It might not be, and you've got to remember, and I say this to all first home buyers every time I meet them, and like I've got, you know, kids, like parents we've sold homes for and their kids are now buying. I'm like, guys, it's not the forever home. Like, this is just your stepping stone. Like, it might be an absolute piece of shit. Do it up, make some money. It's tax-free.
Add the value yourself.
And then get on to the next one, you know, because you don't know which way your life's going to go. You might have a new partner, a baby might come. You just don't know. But the longer you sit, like I like on the weekend, I was running an open home and I was just, oh my God, I probably shouldn't say this on the record, but I wish I could have slapped this dude.
Yeah.
He's walked in, right? And I don't mean to be rude, but like, I looked at him just puzzled and I'm like, it's a $1.8 million home, right? That we're selling. And I'm like, hey guys, how you going? Blah, 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 bit of chit chat. So how long you been looking? He goes, oh, just over a year. And I'm like, what are you looking for?
How can you have not found something suitable?
What are you specifically looking for? You've been putting up for this for a year?
Yeah.
Like, man, I'd be stir crazy, man, if I'd been like, okay, the average buyer looks at 14, 18 homes, maybe over a 2-month period, 3-month maximum. The dude is still looking after a year. And I said, do you know prices have gone up in the last year? Like, considerably?
Yeah.
Like,
if you'd have just bought something.
If you just got into the market.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're looking for the perfect home. I'm like, perfect home doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist because there's going to be faults. There's going to be a shit neighbour or someone behind, or the retaining wall needs, like, just get in the game. And I said, also too, like, your repayments are a lot more. Like, oh my God. And I honestly just think he was doing it for a sport.
Well, that one townhouse, the one that we lived in ourselves, I literally bought that out of like the window of a real estate office. Like literally, like walked past and went.
We don't even have windows.
No, that's it. That was back in the old days.
We got bars.
Once upon a time, kids, they used to put photos of homes in windows of real estate offices.
We used to jump in the backseat of the BMW and get driven around like a chauffeur.
That's another story. You know? But that's walked past, looked at that, and went, that'll do. That'll work for where we're at. Bought it. We lived in it for 2 years. Moved on to the next one, which was one that we just happened to drive past and saw the sign out the front of the property and went, that'll do as the next move.
How's the one of mine we're selling? You know the story.
Yep.
What did I pay for it?
I don't remember.
$360.
Yep.
How long ago?
6 months.
6 months ago.
6 months, yeah.
6 months ago.
Yep.
You're telling me you found a property in Logan.
Yep.
That was still standing.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, on a, what is it, 620, 680 square metre block.
Yep.
Like 3 doors away from a school, bus, service station and shops.
Yep.
Right? Okay, circumstance was different.
Yeah, it
right?
needed some work.
It needed work.
Yep.
Right? It was full of termites.
Yep.
Okay. But I saw value.
Yep.
Right? I just had to add that value. We've now got 2 offers on the table at $610,000 and $620,000. You're telling me you can't
take your profit and move on.
Absolutely. Hence why I'm selling it now.
And if people were to do that with their owner-occupier home, 100% tax-free, they get to walk away.
Absolutely.
I mean, look, in retrospect, going back and looking at it, we've been in our place 15 years.
Yep. Your current one?
In our current place, we've been in that 15 years.
Yep. You don't move much. Like
no,
your unit you've had for 20 years. You're no good for a real estate agent.
No good to
like
make
people that sell every 4 years.
No, but that's ultimately for us. It's been absolutely perfect for us. It's still perfect for us, and we haven't had a need to move on with it. You know, so.
I understand.
But if we hadn't have, and it's probably a case of emotional attachment, realistically for us, we love our home. It's a great street, great neighbours, all of that stuff.
You're taking me out unless I'm in a pine box.
I don't know about that. But realistically, if we hadn't have become emotionally attached, because we've renovated it.
Yep.
But you know, for people that are just starting out, you know, if you could actually recommend to people, if you go in, buy something that needs work, renovate it when it's your own home, make the money, make the profit, you get to keep it all, move on and do it. If you did that half a dozen times,
it's about 8.
Okay.
If you do it about 8 times.
Make $100,000 a time if you do the thing right.
Correct.
You know,
the number is, mate, I've looked into this.
There's plenty of places you can go and find out how to do it. I went through Cherie Barber's school, cost me $5,500 to do that. Money well worth spent to
She's
find
the
out.
lady that I see all these spam ads on YouTube with the blonde hair. Don't buy a property with your own money down, blah, blah, blah. That's her, though.
She actually teaches a course
on
renovating profitably.
And what to look for in a...
Yeah, well, it's a complete system to how to go about it. And I went and did that and spent the money, and I made the money back on one renovation that I did. Even just like the way I went about it. You know, like saved us. You know, so there's you can get the information, you can get the knowledge. But if you can go and buy a property, renovate it, make the money, and do that, and move on. Yeah, like that's if you did it 6 or 8 times.
It's 8 times.
Yep,
right?
and you'd own your home for free.
Correct. However, people are not willing to sacrifice. Oh, I got to pack. I've got to move. Oh, it costs fees.
I've got to live in renovating conditions.
Absolutely. But again, it is that short-term pain.
Yeah.
For that long-term gain.
Absolutely.
But humans, they don't do it.
No.
Like we watched, I had the privilege of meeting David Goggins the other week. You know, like I've always been a fan of Goggins, and if you don't know who David Goggins, you know who he is now.
Yeah, of course.
Look him up, right?
Yep.
He's got his 2 books, Can't Hurt Me and Never Ending.
Yep.
Right? And like that dude has come from nothing to like just like the dude runs 250 miles, which is 411 kilometers.
Yep.
I've done an Ironman, like plenty of them.
Yep.
Like this dude's another level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? And like we were sitting here watching this dude this morning, and I think the message was just do it.
Yep.
Like put up with a little what do you want?
But there's going to be some pain.
There's going to be pain.
If you want something good out of it,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that narrative that we're always, it's too expensive, or back in the day, interest rates were, that's all bullshit.
Yep.
Right? Keep telling that same bullshit story for your whole life.
The idea of if you could go back in time, like I remember like when I first came out of school and when we used to have the shop down the Gold Coast, I used to drive backwards and forwards down to the Gold Coast to work. And that was when Studio Village was new there behind Movie World and stuff, and the big sign up on the hill, brand new 4-bedroom homes, $42,990. God, if you had just bought 1, 2, however you'd had bought 10 of them.
Yeah, but it was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, but it was
again, it's all relative.
Absolutely, but at the time when I was still living at home with the family and that sort of thing, a little bit of discipline and put some money aside and gone and bought one of those as an investment.
Josh was at the pub.
No, I was never at the pub. I was at the racetrack. You were there with me.
Absolutely. Our parents were pissing it up against the wall for us. Called a racetrack. That was our church.
Yeah.
People said, did you ever go to church? And I'm like, every Sunday.
Racetrack on Sundays.
It was a racetrack. And I could tell you which colour ripple strip and which track that would be anywhere in Australia.
Yeah.
So, but I just think there is really, even in hard times, which I think we're going into, there's going to be opportunity.
Of course there is.
There's always going to be opportunity.
Of course there is.
And I always say, the old cliche saying, the best time to buy real estate was 5 years ago. Now, if that's today, and in 5 years' time, you'll be like, shit, I'm glad I brought that 5 years ago.
What does Warren Buffett say? It's something along the lines of, when everyone else is buying, you should be selling, and when everyone else is selling, you should be buying.
But that's sort of our motto here at All Properties Group too. Like when the market starts to tighten up and sales are getting less and listings are coming less, everyone really tightens up on their prospecting and their spend.
Yep.
What do?
Spend
I want
more.
another billboard.
Double down.
I want this. I want this.
Yep.
We absolutely just double down, and we've done that a number of times. And I remember when we're hurting.
Yep.
But I know we're going to hurt more if we don't.
Yeah.
And when we come out the other end of that tunnel,
bang,
off we go.
Yep.
Off we go.
Yep.
And they're all looking, going, how?
Yeah.
Well, we just doubled down. You
Yep.
know what I mean? We cut off some fat here, put it invested over here.
Yep.
It's just no different.
Yep.
It really is no different.
Absolutely. It's an investment at the end of the day, isn't it?
So I love talking about this stuff. For me, this is my passion. I love how how can you have money make money? Because money makes money. And it's just being smart with your money.
Yep.
And that one little concept. pay weekly off your mortgage, you saved 8 years.
Yep.
8 years.
What's that old thing of it's not how much money you make, it's how much you keep at the end of the day that
and it's
makes
what you
the
do
difference.
With it too.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And sometimes, you know, like here, most of our workers, they order Uber Eats every day, or they go, like, I used to take a packed lunch.
Yep. Yeah,
you know?
with your little delicious treats and lollies.
Absolutely, I do. You know, I'm still a school kid, mate. You know, my wife makes them for the kids. It's just, can you make one extra?
Shout out to Mrs. Gilmour.
Yeah, love you. She's amazing. But you know what I mean? Like, we're still in that same mentality. Like, because we haven't finished what personal goals. You know, we're wanting to buy another 3 properties this year.
Yep.
You know, and I think we'll talk about that on our next podcast.
Yep.
I want to talk about like what I'm looking for, because a lot of people go, where should I invest? Right?
It is.
I think that's going to be a whole podcast in itself.
We could do a whole nother one.
Absolutely,
just on
because
that.
like constantly always just, Chris, got some money, looking at investing, because you know there's more people buying in because of COVID.
Yep.
Equity went up. People, the smart ones, are pulling that equity and buying another property.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I'm more than willing to help those people,
Yep.
but probably getting your take, my take on where to buy an investment,
Yep.
what to look for an investment, when to buy an investment, and what type of investment, because there's good investments and there's bad investments in property.
It depends on what you're trying to achieve, isn't it? I mean, I had an interesting conversation with a lady that I went in an appraisal with yesterday that I touched on with you briefly, and the idea of, you know, she was thinking that she'd have to sell her current home to get the money to then take that and actually split the money and go with two deposits to go and actually do that. And I said, hang on, let's have a conversation around that, because you don't need to sell it. You know, so
again, not financial advice.
No.
So, we're all experts.
Yeah.
So I think we wrap it up there.
That'll probably do it for today,
Right,
I think.
Well, there you go. Well, there's another episode of the Give Me 5 podcast. I'm your host, Chris Gilmour, and special mention and thanks to Josh for joining us on this podcast. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys. Bye.